Welcome to the Brent Gove podcast with co-host Eric Lofholm. We are building 1 million agents in 100 countries in 10 years. Now, here's your host, Brent Gove.
And welcome to the big show. I'm Brent Gove with my co-host Eric Lofholm. Good to have you with us today. How you doing, Eric?
Hey, Brent, I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here today to do another episode for our listeners. And today we're talking about leverage. And so
Boom. Absolutely. Everybody knows with leverage, you get a lot more done. And I think, Eric, a lot of people, they just do it all themselves, And, there's a famous story about Tiger Woods playing golf and his ball was up against a rock. And that rock weighed about 500 pounds. And he called about 8 people out of the audience. Everyone grabbed the side of this rock and they slowly moved a 500-pound rock out of the way so Tiger could hit his ball. So there's leveraging yourself with staff, leveraging yourself with, in this case, people who are watching him golf, spectators. But it's the old saying, I'd rather have 1% of 100 man's efforts than 100% of my own. Maybe you're listening to today's podcast and you have no leverage. You're door knocking, you're doing open houses, you're cold calling 50 people a day. And good for you if you are. Respect 250 people a week, at that pace, 1,000 a month, and you're just grinding and you have no leverage. So what is leverage? So a couple stories. I remember in 1999, I flew to Toronto and learned from the number one RE/MAX agent in the world. He said, how much do assistants cost? And I said, I don't know. Back then it was like $14 an hour. And today it might be 25 an hour, but 14 an hour. And he said, and what do you make? You make $250,000 a year, $500,000 a year, 750,000 a year, $1 million a year, 100,000. And he said, take your hours, divide it into your wage, and you'll find out what you're truly worth. And maybe you're worth, $70 an hour or $170 an hour. And he says, and how many of you have assistants? And hardly anyone had assistants. Maybe 10% of the room had assistants, 90% didn't. And he says, so that means, are there things you do that are not critical, like calling the title company, calling the roofing company, calling the painter, calling the sign company, calling the photographer, on and on and on, checking on the mortgage, or the appraisal, has the appraisal been ordered? Did they get the home staged? Did you call the stager? Has the staging been picked up? Did they get the repairs made? Are we ready to do a home? These are all simple tasks that can be done by your assistant. But if you don't have one, you're doing those tasks. And those are, $18 an hour tasks, $22 an hour. Maybe you're in somewhere expensive, but here's the deal. If you're a $70 an hour worker and you're doing $18 an hour work, there's a problem. And I remember struggling, Eric, to hear this. I'm going, I feel like I don't, at the time, I think I was making about $400,000 a year. And I just felt like I couldn't afford anyone, even though you're making good money, it's like, I don't know if I can afford an employee. So one of the things I did, Eric, was I started part-time and I hired someone 20 hours a week, not 40. And I said, we're going to try this for 3 months because you may not like working for me and I may not like you working with me. It's a two-way street. I got to be a fit for you. You got to be a fit for me. So let's take each other, showing them respect. Not like I'm going to fire you in 3 months if I don't like what you're doing, which is kind of what that was, but you got to show people respect you. It's a two-way street. It could be you don't like working for me and I want you to have a graceful exit. And it could be it's not a fit, that it's just not working out the way I envisioned it. So let's try this for 90 days. Her name was Sandra. And I think I was paying her, I don't know, I just said, I'll pay you. Back then, I think it was $1,200 a month for 20 hours a week. I didn't even know I'd keep her busy doing 40 either. And so, Eric, I would make a list on the old yellow notepad and make a list of all the stuff that had happened. And how will I keep her busy? So I had to really think about my day the day before. Like, what needs to happen tomorrow? And I used to do all that stuff. And you know what I'd forget to do? To call a potential seller. And then they would list with Coldwell Banker. Then there goes $14,000 commission because I'm doing $14 an hour work. And so what happened, Eric, was the 90 days later, my income exploded. I literally I think I doubled my income in 90 days. Like I started making double rates to make because I didn't forget to call the buyers. I didn't forget to call the sellers. In other words, I was in my most dollar productive space, which was calling buyers and converting them, calling sellers and converting them, calling the plumber to fix the toilet is not a really powerful use of my time, though it had to be done because I didn't have an assistant. And I ended up at the end of 90 days going, hey, this was awesome. I hope you like working for me. If you want, I'd like to offer you full-time employment, total flexibility. If you need to start at 10 because you have little kids, no problem. If you need to kick off at 3 and go to the doctor, no problem. But I'd like you to work kind of 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. But I want to be flexible because it was a single mom with a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. I get it. You got to go to the doctor. You got to go to the school. You have things come up. But I'm going to give you a list of probably 10, 15 things minimum that need to happen every day. And I need you to bird dog it. I mean, just boom, 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 boom. And man, at the end of the day, she says, okay, Brent, I called the title company. They're ready for us at 4:00 on Friday. I called the stager. They'll be there tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. I called the sign company. Sign will be up tomorrow. They said by 3:00 in the afternoon. I called the photographer. They're going to be there this Saturday to take video and drone photography. They'll be there at 10 a.m. I called the Andersons to see if they're ready to come sign loan docs. I called Guild Mortgage to see if the appraisal had been ordered. It had. And I found out they expected in tomorrow. I will follow up tomorrow and give you a full update. I called the roofer. He's going to come out and do a roof inspection on Oak Avenue, and we're going to get a certification on Main Street. And boom, boom, boom. And I became efficient. I became so much more productive. I actually had more time to prospect, and my income literally, I think it shot up from 400,000 that year to about $650,000, and I made another $250,000. Now I paid her. Oh, by the way, when I took her to 40, I didn't double her pay. I tripled it. So because I want to be that kind of person. I want to be generous where I can be for sure. And so instead of 2,400, I was paying her 3,600 a month. So I doubled what I needed from her, but I gave her flexibility. And I mean, I tripled the pay from 1,200 to 3,600. She was excited, and we went to work. And man, I kept growing and growing my business. And I went to 750 a month. I mean, a year, 850 a year, 950 a year, $1 million a year, $1,000,001. And I literally took her pay every year. I gave her 1,000 bump from. And I'm going to hand this over to you, Eric, to kind of get your perspective. But I went from 36 to 46 to 56 to 76 to 86. I think when she finally, I think at 8,600 a month as my personal assistant, she met Prince Charming and ran off and met, her Prince Charming. And so I lost her. I had to hire someone new, but it was so beneficial. So if you're out there listening to today's podcast, think about what you're doing. Maybe hire someone 10 hours a week, 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday, or 3 hours a day, Monday through Thursday. Maybe you don't work on Fridays but get some help. Eric, I'd love to hear. I know you're primed and ready to go. What are some of your thoughts on the subject of leverage?
Yeah, well, I love the topic, and I love for our listeners to be able to think about how they can create leverage. And a couple of things I want them to think about is things that there's a fee for it, like hiring somebody. You're paying money to create leverage. And then where you're not paying money and you can create leverage. And one of the ways that you can create leverage that it doesn't cost you anything is in leveraging the relationships with your clients and getting referrals and getting repeat business by you have that existing relationship. They're your client. And now we can go back to them if we stay in touch with them. So that's one concept. Another way of creating leverage that it doesn't cost anything, agent attraction. Right? You can go and grow team where you're not having to pay them because they get paid out of the compensation structure of EXP. So agent attraction. Another way of creating leverage is through systems. And it could be a marketing system. It could be an open house system where you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. It could be some type of a networking system. And so the thoughts that were coming to my mind were really around free leverage and then paid leverage, like what you were talking about, hiring people. And if our listeners just start leaning into how can I create leverage, asking themselves that question, your brain will answer virtually any question you ask it. How can I create free leverage where it doesn't cost me anything? How can I create paid leverage where I'm paying a fee to create the leverage? Those were the thoughts that hopped in my mind.
I love what you just said. Your brain will answer any question you ask it. We don't ask it. And so I remember when I set a goal to sell 30 homes a month, it was just me. I had no team, not a year, a month. And I said, how would I do that? My brain said, well, you got to show property every day. And so I started showing property every day. And lo and behold, I started writing offers every day. No, I was putting homes in escrow left and right like popcorn. Now, I didn't sell 30 homes in a month, but I did sell 14. And my record had been 7. I didn't know if I'd ever sell 7 homes in a month again. All of a sudden, I doubled a record I didn't know if I'd ever hit. I just flat doubled it because I asked the question, how do I sell 30 homes a month? Answer, only way you do this if you're showing property every day and writing offers every day, then you got a chance. And so my income exploded. I think I made $188,000. It was either 150 or 180. This is years ago when prices were lower. But I mean, take it today. Imagine you sell 14 homes. What do you make on average a house? Multiply that times 14. The only thing between you and that is you. It's not Eric. It's not me. The only between you and that is you. It's not Biden. It's not Kamala. It's not Trump. It's not the feds. It's not Governor Newsom. It's not, well, I'll say Governor Hickabee, but he's out now. It's not your senator. You can blame anyone you want. Don't play the blame game. That only hurts you. It empowers the reason why you can't, why you shouldn't, why you won't, why you'll never be. Take full responsibility for your life. Even if the person you wanted to be president didn't get there. I had to prepare myself either way, whether Kamala won or Trump won. I had to prepare myself to be successful in spite of that. Of course, I wanted somebody in particular to win, but I conditioned my soul not to freak out, because leadership is being a thermostat. You set that thing at 72 degrees. What most people do is they go up and down with their environment. They freak out like, oh, I'm excited, I'm depressed. I'm excited, I'm depressed. I'm excited, I'm depressed. And that is not what makes a powerful, successful life. So as we wrap this up today, I want to challenge you. Like, I took that and I go, I need, as my business grew, I need an operations manager. I got one of those. I need someone to do social media. I'm 58 years old. I'm not great at that. So I hired Hannah out of Florida. She's amazing. She's young. She's smart. She handles Instagram. She handles Facebook. She does YouTube. She does all this stuff for me. I don't have to do anything. Now, granted, I do pay her some money, but as you grow, you can leverage. I was with Tony Robbins this weekend, and Dean Graciosi, and a guy named Pace Morby, and Brian McKnight, the famous Grammy awarding singer, jazz guy, Brian McKnight. They flew in, by the way, they flew a woman in from Europe, side note, and to play the violin for us. They flew her all the way from Europe, and she was amazing. Like, wow. I don't normally get excited about violin playing, but it was pretty cool. The violin was a Stradivarius built in 1717. It was over 300 years old. Wow. By the way, it was appraised at $15 million. So she sat there playing the violin for us, which is just what she was holding is probably more than most people's net worth will ever be. This little beautiful handmade violin that's over 300 years old and been held like a baby for centuries and centuries. Kingdom have risen and fallen while that violin, Stradivarius violins are famous. But oh my gosh, it was amazing. But one of the things they said, what Dean said, he goes, man, I hire people to do my dry cleaning. I hire people to take my car to the dealership and back. I hire people to mow my lawn, to clean my house. He goes, that just takes away from my kids. And so I want to either be with my kids or in my core. And so I kept doing this. All of a sudden, my hourly wage went from 100 an hour to 500 an hour to 1,000 an hour. And last time I looked, it's worth about 10,000 an hour. Wow. And that's kind of exciting during $10,000 an hour. And so, but I have many people to do things, and you slowly grow it. I'll end with this. Most of you, if you're too chicken to hire someone hourly, hire a TC. Don't do your own paperwork. A transaction coordinator who will handle all the disclosures, make sure every I is dotted, T is crossed, your T is crossed, the file is complete. It's a higher level of service to your client because you have a complete, clean file. Your broker will appreciate it. It'll keep you out of litigation and lawsuits. It's not a guarantee, but it's going to help when your file's tight. All the disclosures have been signed. Nothing was forgotten. You didn't do the walkthrough after the close of escrow. You did it before. Doing a final walkthrough after the close of escrow is useless. And so that's a good way to do it. And there, as you close a sale, you pay. So you might pay $300 per sale, but you only pay if you close. If you don't close, you don't pay. So the money comes out of the thing. You don't have payroll to meet, but really, so start with the TC, then work your way to a personal assistant, and then slowly you can add on people to help you do things. I forgot, I wanted to say this, Eric. I have to say this. I had a young kid. He was 19 years old. I think you and I have done a podcast on a boss before. Have we, Eric? Does that ring a bell? Some 19-year-old from San Jose, California named a boss. The first year, I'll share this with you. This is leverage. 60 seconds. The first year, he called 50 people a day, 250 people a week, 1,000 people a month, all year, 12,000 people. And he just got out. He's 18 years old, real estate license, San Jose. He's from Iraq, and he's calling people. San Jose is a cultural melting pot. And because of that cultural melting pot, he was able to relate with people. You know how many sales he made his first year, Eric? None. 0 for 12,000. Wow. No, he didn't make any sales. But he didn't give up. He grew up sleeping on his back patio, which was concrete. Didn't have a mattress. He thought everybody slept on the concrete with blankets and pillows. He didn't think it was weird to sleep on concrete. And, so he would walk to elementary school, stepping over dead bodies with his father in Baghdad in Iraq. And this was just how he grew up. And so the next year he goes, okay, it's got to work. I believe this will work. So he hired telemarketers, and he got 5 telemarketers to do what he's doing. So now they're making 50 calls a day. He's making 50 calls a day. Do the math. So that's 5 times 50. He was doing 250 calls a day with the telemarketers. He was doing 50. So that's 300 calls a day times 5, 1,500 calls a week, 3,000 calls every 2 weeks, 6,000 calls a month. And the next year, he sold 14 homes. Telemarketers were very inexpensive. He sold 14 homes. His average commission per home was $25,000. 10 times 25,000 is $250,000. Add a couple more, 3, and of course, you got to do the math. He made almost $400,000 the second year, from 0 to 400,000, because he kicked in leverage. And you think, well, a boss can do that. He's a kid. I can't do that. You know what? I think you're right. I don't think you can. See, hold yourself back. You're your greatest asset and your number one enemy. You're the answer to your problem, and you're the problem. So no more. Wash your hands of excuses. They're like armpits. Everyone has a couple and they stink. And go, I'm going to learn. I'm going to grow. I'm going to try. And you may hire someone. I tried hard. It didn't work. Try someone again. It didn't work. Do it again. I did radio twice, failed miserably the third time. I ended up becoming a mega listing agent and making millions of dollars because I didn't quit. Keep trying till you figure it out, and then ask people. Eric, final thoughts as we close down this talk on leverage.
Yeah, well, you and I are creating leverage right now by creating content, doing this podcast. And so there's going to be hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, however many people are going to listen to this episode. So we spend the time together, and we create it one time. And there could be somebody 10 years from today enjoying today's podcast. So I want all of you to think about creating content, and it can be as simple as take out your phone at your next open house and do a Facebook Live. That's creating content. And then somebody's scrolling through their feed and they see you operating in your genius as an agent. So it can be that simple, creating content. Brent's got the YouTube channel. He's written a book. When they do live events, they record them and they repurpose the content in a variety of ways. And so creating content is an incredible way of creating leverage, and something that we all can do. So that's going to wrap up another great edition of the Brent Gove podcast. I want to encourage all of you, as I always say, listen to the podcast multiple times to get the best ideas that were shared to you into your subconscious. And please share the podcast with your team and with your organization so they can benefit from today's message. And we look forward to sharing with you on a future podcast.
Okay, so here's the deal. We have incredible information, video content on my YouTube channel. Go over there and make sure you subscribe. And it's vital that you ring the bell. If you ring that bell every time I put out new content, it's actually going to notify you, and you can get the latest and greatest of what's happening at EXP. Now, don't forget to like me on Facebook, so you can also get that content And then follow me on Instagram. We're hitting everybody high, low, and in between. We're trying to get the information out there so you can build big businesses, revenue share organizations. So go to YouTube right now. Please subscribe and ring that bell. Like me on Facebook and follow me on Instagram. We'll see you out there.